Microsoft has officially gone full Disney on this one, and we're going to talk about it. So we're going to be talking about Microsoft's announcement of an intent to purchase or to acquire Activision Blizzard King.
Right.
Creators of so many things. It's going to have huge ramifications. Before we get into any of that, let's just go down the list of things here, because it's a lot. There's a ton of properties owned by Microsoft already, especially after their Bethesda acquisition. And with this one, it's only going to get even more catastrophically crazy. So you got Call of Duty, you got Overwatch, you've got Diablo, you've got StarCraft, you've got Candy Crush. Gordon? You've got, on Bethesda's side, Fallout, The Elder Scrolls, Doom, you've got Wolfenstein, Dishonored, whatever else they're currently working on off to the side, Starfield, which is the first of the many Xbox exclusives going down the pipeline. And then you've got what Microsoft already had before, which is just a ridiculous number of developers that they've been buying over the years. You've got Halo, you've got Forza, Gears of War, you've got Banjo-Kazooie, if they ever want to make that again, Perfect Dark. There's really no limit to what they can do with what they currently have. And this takes them from a pretty, reasonable share of the market to closer to 28 to 30% of the market share, which is a huge jump for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. I don't know what it's going to look like, especially for people who are playing on PlayStation or whatever moving forward. Presumably, they're not going to make Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox. You and I were talking about this earlier. It would just be too much of a financial hit for them.
Right.
I can't really see them doing that. But, with Bethesda, it was really kind of sad to see whenever they decided to make, the upcoming Bethesda games exclusive, especially for games like Starfield. I was really looking forward to that one, and I was pretty sad to find out that it ended up being an Xbox exclusive.
Yeah, and this kind of feels like there's a lot of people out there that say that exclusivity is a problem as it is now. But my thing about that is that with Sony and Nintendo's exclusives, they're creating them in-house from studios that they've acquired individually and, helped get to a master class setting so that they can make these high-end games. Microsoft is doing the other side of that, and they're just like, here's all the studios that make all the games that make all the money. I'll grab that. Now, the argument can be made that this is to bolster exclusivity, but the real game plan here has been what Microsoft has been pushing for the last 2 or 3 years now, and that's to bolster Game Pass. This isn't about making Call of Duty exclusive. It's about making it so that no one else can create a streaming service or a cloud-based gaming service or even just a downloadable gaming service that uses any of these brands that they've acquired. They've acquired roughly, half the major brands on the market.
Yeah.
And taking those out of the game, especially with PlayStation's rumored upcoming replacement for PlayStation Plus, the Project Spartacus, it's a big deal. But is it going to get to be a big deal?
Especially with all of these studios being bought up by Xbox and Microsoft. I mean, you basically take a lot of the punch out of Project Spartacus moving forward. I don't know. I mean, we don't know for sure if this acquisition is going to go through. It still has to go through like the FTC and a lot of legal hurdles to jump through before it actually happens.
Yeah.
But I mean, should it happen, then it's really going to make Game Pass a juggernaut in the field, more so than it already was.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest.
Right. Yeah.
So it's going to be really hard for Sony to compete with that. It could be argued that Sony doesn't necessarily need to compete with it because there are enough exclusives that Sony has to continue to attract people to the PlayStation side of things. But, I mean, at some point, if Xbox and Microsoft continue to acquire new studios and new brands, that there's just not going to be anything left.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest issue at hand here. Is not that, the way I know that it's about Game Pass here is that they made this announcement, followed immediately by saying, hey, and by the way, Game Pass, just bringing it up, happened to reach 25 million concurrent subscribers. Isn't that crazy? Now we're going to hold Call of Duty hostage, and please subscribe. It's but it's the precedent that this sets. The Bethesda thing was already one big deal. That would have been a big deal by itself. That already gave them a massive library of games and took a lot of things that had previously been agnostically across all platforms they would produce for, to being every game in those franchises now has the chance of being an Xbox exclusive, which hurts the overall gaming consensus. Games that have always been exclusives, you expect that. It doesn't hurt as much to hear that The Last of Us is still only on PlayStation, or Uncharted's only on PlayStation, coming to PC soon though. And it's those things don't hurt as much to find out that Elder Scrolls 6 might be exclusive to the Xbox, or finding out that the next Doom game is going to be exclusive to Xbox. It sets this precedent for if you don't have studios in your wheelhouse creating at the level you want, just buy the biggest ones out there and make that part of your stuff. Take the third-party games off the market to bolster your collection, but ultimately that just hurts the gamers across the board. It's not going to drive more people to Xbox. It's going to create tension between people who don't want to have to spend additional money to buy another console just so they can play the game they would have been able to play had they not purchased this company.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't get the exclusivity thing. I think that most games, if not all, should be released on both platforms, all platforms, however you want to say it. At least down the line. I understand exclusivity for the first 6 months or a year, especially because with the kind of gamer that I am, I don't usually pick up games right out of the gate, not at least until we started doing Hardwired.
Right.
There were a few games that I was looking forward to, but they were like usually games that would be coming out on both consoles anyways.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's just so much money to be made in the gaming industry. I don't understand exclusivity in general.
So, I mean, exclusivity, just to kind of go off on a tangent about that, is it's always been the go-to practice for selling consoles. You push consoles because what's the point in playing, aside from like user interface, which is negligible between the two, or three. I'm not counting you out, Nintendo, I swear. But, aside from the user interface, the only thing that drives the sales of these consoles are exclusives. But it makes more sense when those exclusives come from a place of that's what that brand is. Sony is Naughty Dog and, Insomniac Games. Well, I mean, only recently Insomniac Games. But, Naughty Dog, Guerrilla Games.
Classically Square.
Right, yeah. And Square Enix is a whole other thing. But, yeah, they do work with them a lot.
Classically.
And that would be the next big merger I would expect to see on the horizon. But I don't want that. And I don't think that we should, as a group, want that. Because that's the precedent that's set here. If the FTC does not strike down this merger, not only does this bring in a whole bunch of other problems with the...
it's an acquisition.
Acquisition.
Not a merger.
He's right. But, not only does this set a precedent for, okay, well, if Microsoft bought them, then now Sony's got to respond to, and I already saw this on Twitter, but Sony's got to respond to buy, like, Take-Two or Square Enix or Ubisoft or whatever else. And then it's just, that starts narrowing the playing field. There's already only, like, 10 major brands out there. It's not a lot of options. And the answer can't be that, oh, well, Microsoft has the money. They'll fix them. I don't like what they're making right now, so we should just let Microsoft have them, which is kind of the sentiment I've seen. Activision has been just absolutely crapping their pants over this whole legal issues that they've been having with their higher-ups, and we're going to get into it more in a video that'll be out next week, but it's not good. And this essentially gives a golden parachute to Bobby Kotick to get away from it. It
does, and the upside is that, according to the Wall Street Journal, he is going to be making an exit once the acquisition is complete, once everything is through. That is the plan at this point anyways. There's not confirmation from Xbox or Activision on that side, but insiders have said that is the plan moving forward.
Right.
Which is good for that company. But again, to what you're saying, I mean, you don't want for that to have to be the case for these things to be fixed to begin with. But then also, I mean, you just don't want huge corporate overlords taking up all these really interesting studios, especially ones that produce a lot of content, because then, I mean, we run into the issue that we're talking about where Game Pass has all of the games that you want, and you've got people like us that are primarily on PlayStation that either have to get a PC or get an Xbox to be able to play these games.
Right.
But, to what I was talking about the exclusivity is that PlayStation is already doing this where, like, games that have been out on PlayStation for a particular period of time are going to PC.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like,
yeah, and that's
I would like for Xbox exclusives and PlayStation exclusives to at least a year, maybe 2 years out from their release window, eventually come to the other systems.
Yeah, and I don't see it happening where they come to the other systems. Well, I can't say that because Microsoft's ultimate goal here isn't to push more Xbox consoles out. It's to make it so that Xbox Game Pass, PC Game Pass is available on every conceivable platform, and every person who games also has a Game Pass subscription. Sony's probably not going to let that happen ever, but this could be a pushing in the wrong direction for them, where they just realize that if they sit here and try to stand in the way of this goal of Microsoft's, they're ultimately going to be left with nothing to be able to pick up themselves for their own service. So what would be the point in starting the service? They've already invested in this technology, so I'm sure there's some, cost benefit here going on in the boardroom this week about what they can do to go forward. But exclusivity doesn't have to hurt like everyone.
Right.
You look at the number of exclusives released every year, it's normally 2 to 3 games from Sony, 2 to 3 games from Microsoft, and then maybe like 1 to 2 real exclusives from Nintendo, like the big ones.
Yeah.
So it's, there's some of the best games of the year, but that's because they are the core of what that company's about. That is the fundamental, like, they've given the most time and money to this. You spread that across Bethesda, all of Microsoft studios. They have 18 studios already, and then all of Activision, Blizzard, and King. I'm assuming they wanted King so they can get more into the mobile market, which is a massive untapped market by Microsoft. It's gonna get spread then, so we're gonna get
make that phone. I mean,
Yeah, we don't talk about that. They don't want us to talk about that. But it gets into this whole like, okay, cool. Microsoft has Activision now. Sure, maybe this fixes some of the toxicity problems that are there in that company right now, but does it address the issues of the quality of what's coming out? Are they going to keep forcing the teams that are stuck on a Call of Duty cycle for the rest of their lives to do Call of Duty forever? Or are they going to finally let Call of Duty take a year off? Are they going to keep going down the same paths that are already established by the now very toxic leadership that's either left or is going to be leaving there at Blizzard to keep going down the paths that they established?
Right.
Or do they bring new talent in? This is going to result in less games coming out of the studio, not more.
Yeah.
This is going to result, and I'm not saying that they should be like pushing every game that they can out, but every time Microsoft has acquired something, it's slowed down. Bethesda was different. They had a whole structure already in place, and they essentially said, hey, look, we're just buying you because we want those games for Game Pass, baby. But you guys do your thing. You're doing all right. And Pete Hines is like, yeah, you got it, man, no problem. And so they kept doing their thing. And for the most part, they've remained completely autonomous from Microsoft. They don't report to each other, but they don't really Microsoft's not like forcing them down a certain line, except for with Starfield, which they were originally saying would maybe not be exclusive and is now exceedingly exclusive.
And it's worth noting, too, that this acquisition of Activision Blizzard is different than Bethesda, because Bethesda wasn't a publicly traded company at the time. And with Activision and Blizzard being that way, I mean, it's gonna take more time, and it's probably gonna cause more of Microsoft's influence to be exerted on this company because of that.
Right. Well, and on top of that, they essentially only brokered this deal with Bobby Kotick, who took a above 45% above market share, all cash buyout for this. So this is the largest entertainment purchase of all time. $68.7 billion is a ton of money. To put that in perspective, Bethesda got bought for $7.8 billion. I was just talking last week on the podcast with Royden that Take-Two bought Zynga Entertainment for $12.7 billion. I was like, that's an insane amount of money. This is an insane amount of money for them to just push through, and get this entire. This isn't just studios. This is a publishing label. This is actually technically 3 publishing labels that they've acquired, which makes them. They're essentially not just eliminating games from the market. They're eliminating publishers from the market that just don't exist anymore. They all fall underneath the Microsoft Studios umbrella. And that, for me, is where it kind of gets into, like, are they pulling a man with a twiddly mustache moment right here? Are they monopolizing? Because I don't like that. I don't want that. That's some nonsense. They've shown that they're willing to go above and beyond the normal pay amount just because they have the capital to. And this is kind of where it gets into, like, Microsoft was never really competing with Sony or Nintendo. They don't really care about console sales. They even said so, that they lose money on every console sold, but they don't care because it results in Game Pass subscriptions. People buy accessories for them. They buy third-party games with Xbox branding on them, and that makes them some money back. So this is just them showing that this was never about consoles. They could have always just bought the entire game, and it wouldn't have mattered whether Sony was making the best console in the world, the fastest, the most powerful, because Microsoft just buy all the games. And then you're like, do I really want to spend $500 on a PlayStation for like 6 games? Like, I don't know. It gets messy. And so for me, that looks exactly like removing, fair market.
Yeah, for sure. Unless some weird thing happens and Sony decides to allow Game Pass on their console, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Not unless they're forced to.
Yeah, I mean, and then, as you said, what's the point in buying a PlayStation when you can easily just buy, I'm sure if that happens, then Xbox is going to start producing even lower cost consoles and just undercut PlayStation sales altogether. So,
yeah.
I mean, why would you?
I could absolutely see this going to court and them allowing this acquisition to go through on the requisite that Microsoft break up Activision Blizzard and King and allow one of those companies to exist separately and have, take their sum of that money and form their own. And so then the question becomes, do they keep Activision or do they keep Blizzard? Because, they don't really need... King could probably go with either, and it wouldn't really matter.
Yeah,
they've only ever made one game, I think.
There's several games, and there's spin-offs of Candy Crush in particular.
So it's all one game.
But with speculation as far as like which company they would pick. I mean, if you're going for the PC side, then I would think they would choose Blizzard. But if you're going for the console side, I would think that they would choose Activision.
I think they'd be probably more likely to choose Activision to pull in players from Call of Duty and stuff more actively. I do think that they would do good things with Blizzard if they got them. I think that immediately things like Overwatch would probably see an increase in its visibility of what they're currently working on. There's a lot going into this. It's Microsoft very specifically chose this. They couldn't have done this any other year or at any other time because the issues with the leadership and Bobby Kotick there are what drove the prices down of the stocks, which allowed them to come in and say, look, I'm going to give you a golden ticket out of here. Just say yes.
Or parachute.
Yeah, or whatever. Maybe it wants a chocolate factory situation, you know what I'm saying? But it would have been impossible to do this any other year. And for me, that's almost like they've chosen this time so that in the court of public opinion, everyone's going to see them as these heroes. Because I think the thing I've seen the most of online is people going, "Hey, you guys remember when Phil Spencer of Xbox said we're reevaluating our relationship with Activision Blizzard currently in all of its capacities?" That was a month ago. This is apparently what reevaluating is. Just, we'll buy them. We'll buy them. That'll make them change. That's not really reevaluating. That's like, I've decided that since my son's no longer doing well in the school, I will purchase the school and this will solve the issue. I don't know that that's the. I don't think that's the. But it's so weird. It's such a weird, massive gaming moment. And this changes, if it goes forward, it changes the history. Even if it doesn't go forward, this changes the history of gaming going forward. It makes a massive impact on what can and can't happen. And I guarantee you the warpath forward will be bathed in the blood of smaller studios, because acquisitions, consolidation, it never goes down without losing jobs, losing studios. You look at what EA did to the studios that they acquired over the years, they've shuttered like 33% of them or something like that. It's insane. And even Microsoft just now got, like, in the last 2 years, just now figured out how to run their IPs in a way that people, enjoy. And I think that just doesn't put a lot of confidence in me that this is a good thing for them.
Right.
Or for us. And I'm not even really worried about the exclusivity thing. I just like the less companies that are on their own to create and the more corporate overlord kind of stuff we get, the less chances we have of having unique, cool ideas come out, or even just getting the same good stuff that we currently enjoy.
Right. I mean, for me, like the Bethesda purchase and the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, for me, in my gaming life, it didn't really affect me that much. But the implications of purchasing such a large corporation or company
Such a
by
high
Microsoft,
percentage mark over.
yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So
We're going to get into more of the nitty-gritty of this story. I'm going to do a full 4-part video next week that's going to go into the story behind the scandals that they've faced, what this acquisition means for Activision and Microsoft, and how consolidation of companies is ultimately kind of a bad thing for consumers normally. But in the meantime, we're monitoring all of this. It's all I've been able to think about. I haven't slept since. For Hardwired and Uplink, well, yeah, no, it was yesterday.
I thought it was today.
No, I haven't slept since yesterday.
Oh, okay.
All right. Anyway, for Uplink and for Hardwired, I'm Andrew Hamilton.
I'm Robbie.
And we'll see you guys next time.